don't really know how this series is going to play out. If you look at what we saw last week, we kind of know who could come out on top, but the introduction of a brand new composition really can shake things up, and the question is whether or not Method Black is going to try to play something like this.
I actually want to see them do it. What else would they pick in the blind? I mean, we've seen them run the Mage Ellie. It's not the greatest composition against these wizards, so most likely we're going to see the Demon Hunter Death Knight that they've been running, and they have had pretty good success with it, but still, if Wildcard locks in something like their own Moonkin Ellie, that could be a tricky matchup for them. So I want to see the Rogue Ellie actually just in the blind. I want to see Waz come in and just wreak havoc, and we're going to see the DH DK. But this is a Windwalker Arcane Mage coming out of Wildcard Gaming. It's actually better than the Windwalker Frost Mage Restorer that we've been seeing in this matchup. But still, I am not entirely sold because the Demon Hunter is one of the few melees that has a good time against Arcane Mages still.
Wildcard going to play for the late game here, and you look over on the side of Method Black, and they're not going to try the new composition that we saw earlier today just yet. They're going to stick to what they know. They're not going to go chasing waterfalls. Let's see who's able to take down the first game blind pick under Grand Arena.
All right, Blizzo landing a double leg sweep for his team, securing some initial burst off the back end of it, and Maro can mash out Spell Steal as Arcane Mage, as it is a reduced cost for that specialization of Mage, and Spell Steal can be very frustrating for a Restoration Druid, as your heal over time effects can be removed and benefit the Mage player. So Maro can focus on kiting a lot with tons of blinks and avoiding Swapsy, while still just taking away Chaz's healing. This composition is a curious adaptation on the part of Wildcard Gaming overall, and I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, we'll have to see exactly what Maro can get done. I feel like Arcane Mage right now doesn't necessarily do the most damage, but it does have good longevity with the Spell Steal, like you said, as well as its ability to kite and sort of prolong the game. Fortunately, with the amount of self-healing that Swapsy and Raikou has, I just don't know if Maro's damage will be able to push through until a little bit later on. Blizzo, if he can find some solid burst, they might be able to take Raikou and Swapsy down, but I feel like the main objective in this matchup for Wildcard Gaming is to just deny Chaz from getting drinks.
All right, Raikou getting bursted again in that leg sweep. Blizzo's initiation is always going to be off of that stun lock, and he looks to try and stack up the enemy team and hit as many targets as possible. Looney getting caught in a stun there by Raikou. No real follow-up damage just yet, as he is able to escape around the corner. Maro has held on to his arcane power, so maybe he's looking for a sneak attack. I'm curious to see who he goes after with that. Likely Raikou on that Demon Hunter before dampening. He's a little bit less durable than Swapsy on the Death Knight. Not much so, though, but still an advantage to go after that target instead. Deeper in dampening, though, I expect Wildcard Gaming to switch their attention more to Swapsy.
Yeah, Maro going for an evocation, trying to reset his mana, bring it to full so he can continue to spam out spell steals if he really needs to. Chaz still doing quite healthy on mana. Raikou has every defensive, Swapsy as well in a very healthy state. Looney really is the one that's consistently looking for these drinks, and every time Raikou pushes in, he can try to find these mana rifts off of a couple of the stuns that he has available, as well as his imprisonment. Full stun now secured onto Raikou. Blizzo looking to get aggressive. Maro, is there going to be any follow-up damage? Unfortunately, not really able to find it. Now with a few arcane missiles, gets interrupted. That setup was kind of wasted. They couldn't get too much as Maro was unavailable to really assist with damage.
Blizzo has been showcasing the grapple weapon honor talent, which allows him to steal the weapon of his opponent, and as a Death Knight, to access Death Strike, a healing attack that allows you to survive, you need to have your weapon equipped. So if Blizzo can grapple weapon, steal it away from Swapsy, they deny Death Strike healing. When they can chain that into a leg sweep, that's about 10 seconds or so of crowd control that Swapsy is unable to use Death Strike. Deep in dampening when the heal over time effects are being stolen, and because they disable his ability to access that spell, they can execute a kill on him. So the main objective for Wildcard Gaming should be to maintain a mana advantage, moving deep into dampening, and combine those two crowd controls together to take down Swapsy.
Yeah, the problem is they don't actually have a mana lead right now. Swapsy is getting a little bit low. Good pressure coming in from Wildcard Gaming. But the Iron Bark and the Icebound Fortitude might be able to deny. Looney pushing in, looking for crowd control. Full Cyclone secured onto Chaz. Grapple Weapon gets used by Blizzo. Swapsy's not going to be able to heal himself up. Anti-Magic Zone forced to be traded out as well. Swapsy trying to keep himself alive. Finally, Chaz out of crowd control, trying to top Swapsy off. But you can see Morrow, he's just spamming out the spell steal over and over and over. Swapsy stays a little low, but Chaz finally connects the heals that he needs. And now mana is even for both of these healers.
Blizzo with Diffuse Magic trying to remove those Maledicts. Healing absorbs, but another one follows up and pulls a touch of Karma as both teams go all out here in game number 1. The blind pick is very important for these top caliber teams because they are so diverse in their range of compositions and strategies. So you want that advantage should this series swing to game 5 as they both face elimination in the final series of the day. You definitely don't want to miss this one.
Yeah, Looney will have to see what his mana is like. He actually got a full reset, so both healers are going to be going to full mana. Grapple Weapon onto Swapsy once again as he gets a little bit low. Marl looking for a Polymorph, unable to find it. Raikou with a nice interrupt. And that's one of the difficulties Marl will have in this matchup. As an Arcane Mage, you don't have multiple schools of magic unless you're talented into Ring of Frost, which Marl is not. So anytime he casts a Polymorph or Arcane Missiles, he has to deal with a ranged interrupt from Raikou and a ranged interrupt from Swapsy. And if he gets interrupted, that's going to slow down both his offense and defense, his ability to deal damage or put out any sort of crowd control. So Marl has to do a good job making sure he's at least faking some of these interrupts from Swapsy and Raikou.
All right, Raikou jumping on top of Looney, looking to try and potentially mana rift away some mana and try and get an advantage that way. Obviously, Method Black are basically attacking the blue bar of Looney to try and burn him out. Although they do have decent pressure and cooldowns pulled from Blizzo, so there is potential there to just burst down a kill later into dampening. We see a Grapple Weapon, Fist of Fury. A little bit, I feel like, mistimed, as I don't believe Death Strike will heal if it's parried. So Turbo Fist, Grapple Weapon, and Leg Sweep could be an extended period of time where Blizzo denies Death Strike, and they could actually kill Swapsy before dampening if they can execute all those crowd controls together. Currently with Leg Sweep and a Polymorph over onto the healer Chaz, now a Cyclone could be dangerous for Swapsy. He recognizes that situation and makes a trade with the Anti-Magic Zone, however overlapped with Iron Bark, and Wildcard Gaming's composition is looking solid, I would say, in game 1.
Yeah, it's definitely not bad. We'll have to see what happens in the late game, though, if Marl can put out significant pressure. 5% dampening now kicking in. Chaz's mana at around 70%. Looney still getting caught into the mana rifts. Raikou's just going to be hunting him down the entire game, really trying to tax Looney's mana as much as possible. The one difficulty Method Black has in this matchup is it's going to be difficult to take down Marl. Their main target potentially could be Blizzo. And I think a little bit later on in the game, Swapsy and Raikou, if they really turn their attention onto Blizzo and make him the main focal point in this matchup, they could definitely take him down. Windwalker Monk self-healing isn't going to be as significant. At least they have a target they can keep putting pressure on throughout the entire game, whereas Morrow, he can easily just blink and kite away, stay at max range. It becomes really difficult for Swapsy and Raikou to get their damage rolling.
You can see Blizzo executing that chain grapple weapon into Turbo Fist into Leg Sweep, but because of Anti-Magic Shield activated before the incoming stun, Swapsy effectively takes 0 damage. Looney, in the meantime, is trying to secure a mana advantage for his team by kiting around the map on the outskirts, and we're about to find out if he was able to establish that lead or not. I do believe that he did, and if he can go back to full, not full mana, only slightly ahead of Chaz actually, which is a bit unfortunate considering how much time he actually spent away from the fight. Chaz getting crowd controlled on his Innervate, perfectly timed bash into Polymorph, really denying that bonus healing that he would normally get for free. Well-timed attack there by Wildcard Gaming. Chaz now loses that edge. Looney's Innervate coming up in 20 seconds, but Chaz sitting down for a drink. Perfect orb there, that arcane orb right through the pillar by Morrow. That's definitely important for his team to deny Chaz from drinking, and he executes it accurately and denies any sort of advantage snowballing itself.
Yeah, but Chaz still ahead on mana at this point in the game. Looney's still struggling to top himself off. He gets gripped back into the fight by Swapsy. Raikou unfortunately caught into the leg sweep, wasn't really able to assist in that swap on to Looney, and Looney's once again trying to kite away. Looney's job in this match is to force both Swapsy and Raikou in the midfield so Morrow can tee off on them as this Arcane Mage, as well as get Novas and Polymorphs to slow down their assault on Looney and try to preserve his mana bar as long as possible.
All right, grapple weapon attempt here on Blizzo to take down Swapsy. Anti-magic shield, though, preventing any damage from Morrow, finding its way to him, so he will start to stabilize. They need to look to force the anti-magic zone in the Icebound Fortitude here at 20% dampening, then execute for a kill. If they can't get it soon, they're going to slowly fall behind and likely get overwhelmed by the team of Method Black. Swapsy having a difficult time, though, staying on target. Raikou really taking control of the fight for his team, trying to solo Looney behind the pillar. I think that it's unlikely that he can solo Looney, but I don't want to entirely count himself out. They proc that Gladiator Safeguard. Raikou is able to dispel it off. Really well timed there on Raikou's part, definitely allowing him to get an advantage in this fight. Then jumping back, reversing the polymorph off of Chaz. Raikou debuting quite effectively here, but with all three members locked down in crowd control, 23% dampening, things may start to get dire for Swapsy. Chaz gets out of the chain, connects a couple of heals, and now Blizzo on the back foot.
Yeah, Blizzo taking significant damage. Looney has to get some heals on top of him. He still has a touch of karma available if he really needs it. Swapsy actually having to retreat at this point in the game, just trying to avoid a little bit of damage, keeping himself alive with Death Strike. Blizzo with the Fist of Fury does manage to get some damage rolling. Asphyxiate Stun slows that down, and Blizzo actually has to trinket out as he kites away. Now Blizzo, an even more exposed target with no trinket available to remove the next stun. Swapsy with a nice Mind Freeze on Morrow, slows down that damage. Raikou still in hot pursuit of Looney, trying to burn out that last little bit of mana. And now Chaz sitting down for a drink. If he can reset his mana, unfortunately he cannot. Morrow has been keeping Nether Tempest on him the entire game. That is difficult for Chaz to actually drop out of combat when he has that damage over time effect. You can see all those little shooting stars coming out on Chaz, and that means Morrow has that Nether Tempest up, and if he can keep that up the entire game, it is unlikely that Chaz can actually get a drink.
Huge burst window here for Wildcard Gaming. They pull that vital defense from Swapsy, the Icebound Fortitude. One objective out of the way, although it trades quite efficiently with the Touch of Death. Morrow now needs to pull the trigger on this Arcane Power. They need to look for this window soon if they want to find a kill. Mana isn't looking good for either side in this fight in the blind pick, which is of utmost importance to take in a series between these two top caliber teams. Blizzo under fire, but he can redirect damage with Touch of Karma. This could be a risk for Swapsy to go after him. Turbo Fist denies Death Strike. I would love to see a grapple weapon tagged off on the end of this, or a leg sweep. Not committing it just yet. Instead going for Touch of Karma, redirecting the damage. How are they going to respond? 3 seconds away from that Iron Bark. Swapsy makes the trade, but without his weapon, he can't access Death Strike. He's dipping low, forced to overlap cooldowns. Arcane Power now activated for Morrow right as the defense begins to fade. Potentially a huge hit for Morrow. He goes for a Mass Invisibility. Maybe a potential polymorph off the back end of it. No, not able to find it. Looney or Chaz in a position to avoid it. Swapsy survives for now, but Spell Steal is going to be really effective here. Chaz doesn't have the mana to refresh those heal over time effects. Blizzo can deny the healing of Death Strike. This composition strategically makes a lot of sense for Wildcard Gaming if they can keep stringing it along.
Yeah, Blizzo has to survive though at 50 seconds left on his Touch of Karma. We'll have to see if he can hold on. Looney actually managed to get away for a drink there, and now in favor of mana, Wildcard Gaming has the edge. Swapsy's still low. He's just been having to hide behind the pillar for so long in this matchup. The only one he can really hit is Blizzo. Blizzo now with another disarm onto Swapsy. Swapsy getting low. He can't heal himself up. Chaz really taxing his mana to keep him alive, but the spell steals from Morrow might be too much for Chaz to really handle. Chaz now looking for a drink. Blizzo moves over and shuts that down. Looney able to regenerate a little bit of mana, has Innervate available, is going to be using that immediately to keep his team alive. Morrow just spamming spell steal on Swapsy over and over. Now I'll have to see if Swapsy and Raikou can put the pressure on Morrow that they need in this matchup.
Yeah, Method Black are against the wall here. Looney crosses the map to deny the drink of Chaz. Mana still even on this front at 41% dampening. Touch of Death, though, gets activated. Swapsy with not much defense left. 10 seconds away from the cooldown. Swapsy could easily fall here in game number 1. The crowd control looks good. Fists of Fury are flying in. Is Swapsy going to go down? He grips in Morrow for Death Strike. Morrow blinks away to deny it. Blizzo with no fault. The grapple weapon denying even further Death Strikes. Iron Bark needs to be enough for Swapsy to stay in. I'm not sure if it will. Blink counterspell. Morrow making plays to try and close this fight out. Do they have enough damage to push them over? They deny Darkness with Cyclone, but even with that denial, I think Swapsy's going to hang on just in time to survive this attack. Blizzo goes all in. Touch of Karma now committed. Polymorph denies Darkness, but Anti-Magic Zone equivalently trades here, at least to prevent Morrow's damage as Swapsy holds on by a thread.
Yeah, Blizzo still trying to take him down. Darkness gets dropped out by Raikou before the polymorph spam does come in. Looney has so much mana. Swapsy getting lower. This composition from Wildcard Gaming seems to be working quite well, but Blizzo getting swapped to. He has no touch of Karma. Swapsy can just hold on a little bit longer. They might be able to take Blizzo down. Spell Steal after Spell Steal coming in from Maro. Chaz can't keep up. Swapsy might fall. He has a couple seconds left on the anti-magic shell. Blizzo getting low. There could be a cross kill. Swapsy ultimately falls and Blizzo survives. Wildcard Gaming with the surprise composition takes game number 1.
Wildcard Gaming is going to be able to do it, and this is so huge for them. This could be the turnaround if they are able to take down this entire series. How good does this composition look to be able to do that, C?
Well, the composition, it looks fine, but I think that Method Black has no idea how to play against it. They wasted so much time going after the Arcane Mage. The Arcane Mage is very, very low in terms of damage, so you're not really stopping much when you go after him. At this part in the game, Blizzo is actually using his second touch of Karma here. I think if they were to go after Blizzo, it would have been a lot more effective. You can see he almost dies here in the end when they basically just started going on him, you know, very, very recently here. I think what you want to do is you want to have Chaz chase Looney, and then you want to have Blizzo and Raikou, Swapsy and Raikou go over onto Blizzo. Because if you chase the Arcane Mage, that is where the Arcane Mage really does shine. He's going to be able to out-kite pretty much every melee in the game.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you bring up so many good points. First of all, you're going to see the Arcane Mage able to kite, but also not that much damage is coming out of the Arcane Mage, so you're not stopping any pressure by sitting the Arcane Mage.
Yeah, and what it comes down to when I play the Arcane Mage, it's the most frustrating thing is when you get to do whatever you want, but you just don't have the damage to kind of back it up. You can land a CC, you can stand free casting, but ultimately self-healing is really strong, and if people just ignore you and pressure someone else in your team, it a lot of the time feels like they get more pressure than you do.
Yeah, exactly. It seems just like a good trade to let the Arcane Mage do whatever it wants, let it wait until dampening, and ultimately that's not what we see in the first game, but Method Black, a team that we've seen mid-series go, okay, wait, we just had it wrong. We need to change the strat here. So if we see that same comp again, Blizzo most likely would be the kill target for this team, Sid.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. The Arcane Mage is kind of like a fly, and they spent the entire game trying to swat him, but were unable to. So I think going after a different target, such as Blizzo, either at least gets Blizzo off of Swapsy's back so he can breathe a little bit more, and also is just a lot easier to kill in general. He's not going to be spell stealing the heal over time effects from Chaz, effectively having 2 druids healing him throughout the fight while he's using all of his blinks to avoid being attacked. Overall, it was just a missed target there, and it might have just been a matchup that they weren't experienced in. I was really happy to see Wildcard Gaming with that initial strategy to deny Death Strike as much as they did, as it's such a potent heal. They definitely came prepared for a crafted answer for Death Knights, as that seemed to be difficult for them. Now it's really up to Method Black. Are they going to keep playing this cleave composition, or are they going to be forced off of it? I do believe that they have better options. I think with a Wizard Cleave, they could just completely decimate an Arcane Mage with multiple interrupts. Something with like a Warlock, it would be very difficult for the team of Wildcard Gaming to get something done with this, which is why I don't know if we should expect it as a blind lock-in.
Yeah, I feel like right now, when you do look at them, they probably don't need to do it yet, but if they win here, maybe they do it on game 3. Maybe you start to play around with the composition that we saw in the previous series. Maybe you do lock in the Rogue and the Ellie. Maybe you try it out in game 3.
Potentially, I think it really just depends on what Wildcard Gaming decides to put forward in this matchup. They have to lock in blind. I don't know if Arcane Mage Windwalker Monk is necessarily the best blind pick. Ruins of Lordaeron, for Wildcard Gaming, this could be a potential map where they go with Windwalker Death Knight. We know on the smaller maps, they kind of just like to default to that cleave setup.
Yeah.
That could be something that they decide to implement.
That's pretty much been the way of the road today. Every time we have seen one of those smaller maps, any team that's had a cleave has tried to use it. Any team that has something that can take advantage of close quarters has gone for that route.
Yeah, I think it would be intelligent to lock in the Windwalker Death Knight and then either have Looney on the Mistweaver or on the Resto Druid. It really depends on what they're afraid of. On the side of Method Black, and then Method Black, they get to answer. They have a lot of things, of course, as well. Demon Hunter Death Knight, they have the Mage Ellie as well, which is pretty much the go-to comps that we've seen these guys run. Yeah, I think it really does depend on what Wildcard lock in. If I was Wildcard, though, I wouldn't lock in the Arcane Mage Windwalker blind. I would go for just the Windwalker DK, I think, and maybe with a Mistweaver, it just seems all around very effective.
and we're going to find out here in a few short seconds what they do go for. Okay, they're going to play Ellie Mage. What do you think of this one here, Ven?
I think that Method Black is going to lock in the same comp we saw in game number 1, and I think they do have a little bit of a comp advantage. I think eventually Looney will run out of mana, and Morrow on the Frost Mage is going to be a much juicier target for them to sort of train down and really keep pressure on and limit the amount of damage that he's able to do. I think that's probably what Method Black is going to be thinking going into this game.
Yeah, I think another thing is when you look at these two teams, you really do expect in a lot of ways to go all the way to Game 5.
Yeah, I mean, we've often seen it go constantly back and forth because they both bring basically every option in the game. I would say that Wildcard Gaming are lacking Rogue Mage, which Method Black have, but Rogue Mage isn't necessarily as potent as it usually was, and Wildcard Gaming have an answer for it with their Windwalker DK, so Wildcard Gaming can bounce between the melee cleaves and the caster cleaves. Method Black can do the same, which is why the blind pick is so important, and it's interesting to see that even though there haven't been many changes overall, people are still adopting new strategies and new compositions to the meta. We saw Demon Hunter and Death Knights really owning just in general across the board, so Wildcard Gaming tried to come up with a composition to remove the advantage the Death Knight would bring, paid off for them and got them a blind pick victory. Now that's something strategically as these teams go head to head further on in the tournament that people now have to consider, which means we see even more diverse of a range of classes. The Elemental Shaman Rogue was one of them. I'm wondering maybe if we see that on Runes of Lord. I think it's unlikely. I think the safer pick, as we've already been pointing out, is the Demon Hunter Death Knight again here.
Yeah, also, I do want to say, now that we've had quite a bit of time with Wildcard Gaming, folks, if this is one of your first tournaments, Method Black was the only team in all of Europe to stay together coming into this season. This was the only roster that we had seen in Europe in 2018. What year is it?
2019.
So in 2018, this is the only roster that made it for. I have no idea.
Did you accidentally go in your time machine?
No, I didn't. It's just it's just how these guys play. Sometimes you never know what year you're in, right? But when we do look at Wildcard Gaming now, and we see Morrow, how he's adapted to the roster, how do you feel it was for them to actually no longer have Walrix, to pick up Morrow? Morrow, we all know he is a fantastic mage. We've seen him on the Boomkin a lot. Was it the right move for Wildcard Gaming to go for this roster change?
Well, I think with Warwicks, you get the Warlock expert. He is going to be just the king of destruction, the Lord of Destruction, sorry, Sid. But with Morrow, you will get kind of a flex caster player. So the way I look at it is you get someone a little bit more like Sam I am over in Method Orange, someone who plays the mage, but who also plays the Moonkin, who can also play maybe the Warlock, and who is more likely to just multi-class like that. Now, do I think that that fits better with what Wildcard Gaming has? I think in this current meta, yes. I don't think so. In the long run, though, I don't think Mage Ellie, for example, is typically a composition that we see be a comp that people play at a high rate, whereas compared to Lock, Shaman, Druid, for example, that is a comp that consistently through every expansion seems to make its way back into the meta. So I would say in this current moment in time, yes, but in the long run, I'm a little bit skeptical because I just feel like Mage doesn't synergize well with what they have on Wildcard Gaming, like Mage Warrior Druid usually is an okay comp, but it usually won't be as good as Mage Rogue Druid. And just in general, I don't think the Mage, which is his main, which is what he's going to be best at, fits in with everything else.
Yeah,
that they have.
In 2019, it seems to work, but maybe you do get to something like 2020, and all of a sudden you do want the Warlock. What do you think they could do on this team though to open things up? I mean, you look at Morrow. Do you say you want him to maybe pick up the Warlock, or do you say, wait, we need somebody to try to pick up Rogue?
Well, I want to see Zeepai pick up Rogue. I know that he's already been playing it, so he has some experience with that, and I would like to see him keep practicing it. And then with Morrow, I want to see him, of course, pick up the Warlock. That way you have the Warlock and the Ellie, you get the Mage and the Rogue, you have Looney flexing on all the healers, and then you also have Blizzo as your kind of melee king. You can play Windwalker DK with Zeepai already. You can play Warrior Ellie, Resto Druid, which also is usually a really meta comp.
Do you not think that Blizzo maybe should pick up the Rogue? Then they've got Ellie Rogue too, maybe moving forward. They can play Rogue Mage, they can play Warrior Mage, Windwalker Mage. That way at least Blizzo and Morrow almost always have most of the synergy. rather than Zeepai shifting off? Because, I mean, I guess they've both... Blizzo hasn't really had much experience in terms of casters, whereas Zeepai is the one who's kind of drifting away from that with the Death Knight and in the past the Rogue. I'm just trying to think of the best way to allocate their resources and their time, because that is a limited thing that they have to prepare for these tournaments, especially moving closer and closer to the spring finals, which is likely for these two teams to qualify.
Yep.
I mean, I kind of agree with it. In an ideal scenario, you would want to have Blizzo as the Rogue, as the Windwalker, as the Warrior. He would be kind of like Nixie then for ABC, which is ideal, because then, like you said, you get the Rogue Ellie, you get the Rogue Mage as well. But Zeepai already has experience playing the Rogue, so I feel like that's just wasted time for him then, compared to Blizzo, who would have to start off fresh on that class.
Yeah, it goes exactly to what Sid was saying. With time being such a limited resource, you almost assume that Zeepai would be the best person to pick it up because of the already invested time. You don't want to operate off of sunk cost, but that just may be the way that the cookie crumbles. Wildcard Gaming right now already going to have one in their back pocket. They are going to try to get on match point, but Method Black has already had a little bit of an opportunity to see what Wildcard Gaming will bring. Now with different compositions and Ruins of Lordaeron, let's see who's going to come out on top.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the final series of the day. You definitely don't want to go anywhere as the #1 seeded team, Method Black, go head-to-head with the second highest seeded team, Wildcard Gaming, in an elimination best-of-5 series. Wildcard Gaming got the upper hand on the blind pick, which does set them up quite effectively for the rest of the series. Method Black now against the wall.
Yeah, something we haven't really noted just yet is Method Black actually has selected the composition Wildcard Gaming used to counter them when they were playing the Elemental Shaman, Frostmage, Resto Druid. So bringing in this composition, turning it around on Wildcard Gaming. The Moonkin provides a lot of instant cast damage. In addition, he'll also be immune to Polymorph in this matchup. So Morrow loses a little bit of the control that he'd normally have on that Frostmage, as both Waz and Chaz will likely be in Moonkin form for most of this game.
Yep, definitely going to be difficult to secure crowd control against all of these druids as a mage. Polymorph definitely not effective, so Morrow will likely focus on avoiding damage and just going for a huge burst window, such as this one with that lightning lasso combined together. They've got Waz stuck in the middle in open field. Perfect damage and perfect for the pickings. Waz gets bursted, interrupted on a cast. Morrow now gets bursted. Both teams coming out blasting here in game 2.
Yeah, Waz a little low. Nice Cyclone coming in from Looney. Do they have the follow-up crowd control? Doesn't look like it. And Chaz able to immediately chop him off. Now a full Polymorph secured onto Chaz. That was set up by Zeepai's Earth Elemental stun. That was really nicely done. Good coordination there between Wildcard Gaming teammates. And now Chaz out of crowd control. Everyone should be able to stabilize. I think this is one of those matchups where, unless we see a lot of mistakes, it's likely going to go to the late game. And we'll just have to see how it eventually plays out. I mean, on paper, I feel like Method Black has the advantage with the Moonkin. He's going to be able to cast out a lot of spells when there's no threat where he has to basically sit in bear form the entire game with no Aster Rogue in the games. He'll be able to put out a lot of pressure, keep up his dots on everyone, go for Cyclones, pause out HP, and I think every time he has that Incarnation up, Waz is going to be able to put out a ton of pressure.
For some reason, watching Waz and the Moonkin constantly throwing his hands up in the air, I'm thinking of that song, like, throw your hands up in the air, like you just don't care. I don't know, it's stuck in my head watching him move around on the balance druid. In the meantime, getting more serious here as Wildcard Gaming are initiating a pretty heavy-duty attack with Waz dipping below half as well as Swapsy. Chaz needs to allocate his resources perfectly so that he can play efficiently and maintain a mana advantage over Wildcard Gaming, as they have tried to set up themselves compositionally to outpace Wildcard Gaming's Wizard Cleave in the late game dampening stages of this match.
Yeah, Morrow, he's focusing on a Frostbolt build, so the Azurite traits he's using are Tunnel of Ice and Flash Freeze, 3 of each, and he's just going to be trying to build up as much damage as he can, and then unleashing it with the Deep Shatter combo with his Flurry procs, and every time he can get those off, he's going to be able to put out a lot of damage. Swapsy now getting interrupted. Wind Shear by Zeepai onto Swapsy as they look to close out this game. Chaz forced to trinket out, has the Iron Bark, but he doesn't want to have to overlap it with both his and Swapsy's trinket and the Astral Shift. They have to hold on to something for the next attempt. Wildcard Gaming, that was a beautiful setup from them.
Zeepai setting up for some counter aggression. He's got that Stormkeeper, couple lightning bolts being tossed towards Waz as he jumps into bear form, ducking for cover, frenzy regeneration, and allowing him to easily recover through that attack. Mana, I do believe, is even at this point in the fight. Very important resource moving into what is likely to be a dampening match. Looney gets bashed up. No follow-up crowd control, though, being casted. Would have been maybe Chaz just trying to conserve mana. No reason for him to go for a Cyclone this early on. Just unlikely to find a kill. So instead, going to be conserving his resource for an opportunity later on in the fight. And again, similar to when we saw Elemental Shaman Boomkin against a Destruction Warlock, Frost Mages are a stationary wizard. They have to stand in place and turret a lot of casts out, whereas the Balancer and the Elemental Shaman can weave in and around corners and avoid those hard-casted spells. So you would say that Method Black have the advantage in that regard. But if Wildcard Gaming can initiate a big wave, a huge, massive push, then they definitely can overwhelm a single target and take it down, but they are playing at a disadvantage.
Yeah, Marl with the Icy Veins looking to get aggressive. Unfortunately for him, all three members of Method Black, realizing that, went for the strategy of just avoiding that cooldown altogether by hiding behind the pillar. Now Incarnation gets used by Waz, but Swapsy's the one that's in a lot of trouble. He gets interrupted. Lightning Lasso by Zeepai. That gets shut down by Waz. Good peels, trying to keep his teammate alive. Looney going for a drink right now. Chaz looking to shut it down, but I believe Looney's going straight to full mana with that drink. Now gets caught into the capacitor stun. Nicely done there by Swapsy to try to slow him down. Looney actually didn't get any mana back, so as long as Method Black can continue this mana lead, if we go deeper into dampening, then that's definitely a win condition for them.
Yeah, it most certainly is. Let's see if they can execute on it. The damage over time effects are already starting to sink in for Method Black, and we haven't even moved into dampening with Looney having to power through damage on 3 targets. That is going to cost him a ton of mana as Method Black look to take this game. If they are unable to win here, Wildcard Gaming could easily walk away with the rest of the series. Method Black cannot afford to lose. They've set themselves up well here on Runes of Lordaeron as well as compositionally, but at any cost, one big burst window by both Zeepai and Maro could just erase someone from the arena. They always need to be ready and waiting. This is likely to be a fatiguing series for these teams as most of these matches will be going into deep dampening, and the more you get fatigued, the longer the matches get dragged on, the more likely you are to make a mistake. Both teams are experienced in that dampening regard. Perhaps Looney, though, with a slight edge as we know him as the dampening king.
Yeah, Looney actually went, sat down for a drink, full mana, and now Wildcard Gaming, they actually have the mana advantage in this matchup. Chaz might have to sneak away for a drink at some point. Waz getting bursted down, and Maro's been able to put out a surprising amount of damage. Waz getting lower into bear form, trying to survive. Barskin gets used, looking for a Cyclone, potentially interrupted. Waz could just potentially fall if there's any crowd control onto Chaz. Now, ultimately, Waz will survive, but they used a lot of defensive cooldowns to keep him up. Chaz still in crowd control. Another Cyclone coming in from Waz on Looney, trying to slow down Wildcard Gaming. They need to try to get some counter pressure here. We need to see Swapsy set up for his team, get some good interrupts, get some good burst damage off, but Waz is just being forced to play defensive for so long.
There's a huge lead right now for Wildcard Gaming, which is not what I was expecting. Chaz needs to try and reset the fight a bit as he sneaks away into that starting room very far away. I think Looney is predicting where he's going and jumping over, getting some denial on that drink. Well done by Wildcard Gaming. If they can keep that mana lead, that may be an opportunity for them to swing this match, even though disadvantaged in their own favor. Zeepai getting cloned up, unable to get some damage out. Going for a Lightning Lasso now on Swapsy. That's going to expend a lot of Chaz's mana. Looney jumps in, securing a bash, potentially a Cyclone, as maybe they go all in for a kill on Swapsy here at 12% dampening, dropping in that Primal Elementalist looking for burst. Swapsy stays alive, now looking for the reversal. A Lightning Lasso of his own. Giddy up, boy, tons of damage potentially. Zeepai, though, stabilizes. Looney clutching out some heals, not forced to trade that powerful Astral Shift, unlike Swapsy, who now will be exposed.
That was interesting. I didn't know you could actually use the Gladiator's Maledict while channeling Lightning Lasso. Just saw Swapsy pull that off, so that's definitely interesting. You can use the stun, use the trinket, and you can set up a big amount of burst damage for yourself. Zeepai now reversing the Lightning Lasso onto Swapsy. Interrupt now onto Waz. Bash onto Looney. Good amount of crowd control coming out. Swapsy getting a little low. Does Maro have any follow-up damage? Doesn't look like he's able to get out too much pressure at this point, having to play a little bit defensive, looking for some Frostbolt damage. Chaz in invisibility right now, or in stealth, trying to get away for a drink. Wildcard Gaming still definitely has the mana lead. Ironbark has to be forced out. Maro a little low. Gonna have to play defensive in this situation as both Swapsy and Waz trying to counter pressure. Incarnation used by Waz. Maro getting a little low. Pressure onto Swapsy as well. Now Looney reversing the pressure with a bash onto Chaz. Crowd control Both teams just going full aggro at this point of the game.
Crowd control central here in game number 2 on Ruins of Lordaeron. Not many places to hide on this open field battlefield. Swapsy setting up some bursts here with Lightning Lasso, ducking around the corner to avoid interrupts. Good positioning on his part, although Waz now taking the brunt, forced to retreat back behind the Tombstone. Thunderstormed back into midfield. Morrow is still falling behind. Huge hit onto him by Swapsy. Swapsy right in his face, trying to close this match out, or at least force an ice block this deep into dampening. Nice Thunderstorm. Morrow set up in midfield for the team to tee off of. Waz backs him up a bit. Now switching their attention to Looney. Basically anybody out in the open is a target. They want to attack that resource mana on the healers, try and burn it down as quickly as possible. Chaz is actually managed to squeak back in the lead in that regard, and Method Black are looking solid once again in game 2.
Yeah, look at Looney. Look at his positioning. He's running into the starter room looking to get a drink, but Swapsy denies with the Lava Burst. Chaz in hot pursuit, but he can't leave Waz behind. Waz caught into the Lightning Lasso, forced to use the Bark Skin. If they have follow-up damage, Waz could ultimately fall. Chaz being distracted. Looney finds the bash onto Chaz. That was nicely done. And anytime that happens, Looney went away, sat down for a drink. He's in stealth. Chaz looking to shut it down, but Looney gets the reversal with the bash. Unfortunately, not able to find a Cyclone. Now Looney caught in midfield, actually taking quite a bit of burst, but those drink opportunities, they distract the enemy team and also bait them into position where Looney can sort of take advantage of the fact that they're out of line and they can get some crowd control out.
Looney once again sneaking off into the corner. Is he going to be able to get a drink and regenerate mana? Does not appear to be the case, but mana has equalized here at 30% dampening. Things are going to begin to get interesting now at this point as healing becomes so insurmountably difficult to deal with. Zeepai down at half, Waz down at half. Both teams continue chucking spell after spell to take down their opponents. Waz gets bursted in midfield, 3 seconds away from that Bark Skin. Now available, but taking a brunt of the exchange. Flurry connects. Morrow dishing out tons of pain. Renewal bounces him back, but Earthshock takes him down equally as quick. Chaz expends some mana, manages to reset the fight. Looney once again off in the corner, looking to try and get a drink or overextend Waz and or Swapsy. Waz moves in to deny this drink. Did Looney end up getting anything off it? He did manage to get a tiny bit, at least putting himself slightly in the lead. Wildcard Gaming doing whatever they can when facing a composition disadvantage to just move to match point and close this out. But Zeepai now getting bursted in this exchange, trading out Astral Shift, but opening himself to Incarnation. That Astral Shift, the Iron Bark, that defense is going to be falling down shortly, and Waz has a window of opportunity. I want to see him save that Astral Power. He already has enough for 1 Star Surge. Save it up so he can do 2 back-to-back. He actually gets counterspelled here in a kill window for Wildcard Gaming. Will Swapsy fall? They're seconds away from actually being able to take down Zeepai, but Swapsy needs to stay alive a little bit longer. The Cyclones are good. There's no Glaire's Medallion. Are they going to move to match point? A 3rd Cyclone closes in. Capacitator Totem denies the healing surges, but Swapsy manages to stay in it. All right, Waz, you have to be the playmaker here. There is a distinct opportunity to kill Zeepai. Incarnation gets popped. Lightning Lasso, Star Surges combined together. Can they take him down? They need Waz's damage here and now to finish this off. They don't have enough damage. Zeepai is sneaking away and staying alive.
Yeah, nicely done by Morrow. He counter-pressured Swapsy, not allowing him to pressure in, because Swapsy's low as well with no Astral Shift. Zeepai looking to close the game out with the Lightning Lasso. Waz denies with a Solar Beam. Morrow still in a good position to get damage rolling. Looks like Wildcard Gaming, they want to try to close out this game. Chaz completely tapped on mana. Looney not far ahead, to be honest with you. Waz getting interrupted at 42% dampening. This is going to become absolutely ridiculous. Both Druids caught in the bash. Morrow low. This could be his first Ice Block. Once again, Waz getting low. Good pressure here for Wildcard Gaming. Waz forced into bear form right now, trying to avoid some damage. Now trying to reverse the pressure, but everyone's caught in Blizzard and Frozen Orb, Comet Storm. Morrow's been able to deal massive damage on that Frost Mage.
Yeah, Waz and Swapsy are definitely doing a lackadaisical job in avoiding this Frost Mage's cast. They're definitely not taking advantage of their instant cast wizard prowess on that Balanced Druid and Elemental Shaman, and they're really feeling the pain and punishment of it. This is not a mistake that they can afford to throw away. They can't get ahead of themselves in this fatiguing matchup. We're now at 46% dampening. They're still low on health. Burst follows it up. Waz in a bit of trouble here. No defense available, but Chaz has regenerated at least a semblance of mana to maybe stay in the fight a tad bit longer, but the pressure from Morrow has been absolutely insane. Comet Storm, Ray of Frost, double connection. Waz in trouble. Chaz trinkets. Will it be enough? This deep into dampening, Waz manages to stay alive. Thunderstormed back into midfield. Gets Winchard on the Cyclone. Z-Pie now feeling a bit of pain. Would have maybe liked to seen an Astral Shift here, but Waz gets Cycloned at very low health. Chaz needs to time this Iron Bark. Right off the back end, he times it, but it might not be enough. 50% dampening. Method Black, are you going to be taken on to match point with a composition advantage? They set everything up, but they're falling behind.
Yeah, Mar has his Icy Veins. He's looking to close out the game onto Waz. Kleptomania gets used. Waz low. Lightning Lasso. Swapsy backs him up with the Wind Shear. I don't know if Waz is ever going to get topped off again. Chaz trying to keep him alive. That's one Maledict onto Waz if they have any more. Cyclone on Chaz. Waz getting low, trying to keep himself alive, sitting in bear form for so long, but unfortunately not able to get any counter pressure. Swapsy has to try to get something done, or I think that Wildcard Game is just going to be able to run them over.
I'm not so certain now. Z-Pie getting counter-aggressed. Looney makes the trade. Waz has managed to stay alive now at 53% damage. Polymorph snuck in by Morrow. Perfect timing, perfect Cyclones. Looney pulling the trigger, going aggressive after playing defensive for so long. Nailing these Cyclone timings, switching it over. Frozen Orb is Waz pinned down. Z-Pie moves in to strike for the kill. They need just the tiniest bit more damage to take Waz out. Can they move to match point? It's looking like it's going to happen. They've done it. They've overcome the disadvantage. Wildcard Gaming advanced to match point.
Oh man, and this is not something that you really do expect to see. I think before we went into this one, we start talking about how you expect it to probably go to the Game 5 if you are going to try to predict the way that this series does play out. But now Wildcard Gaming has every single advantage. They do not look like a team that's going to be reverse swept.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that is at the back of the dampening getting to a point where essentially if you survive that incarnation, you are in a good spot now until the next one is up. You can see Waz's is up in about 30 seconds, but here a really nice play happens. So there Morrow uses his Kleptomania, which of course forces Chaz to leave his form to go out and toss some heals, and immediately after he uses that Kleptomania, he starts pre-casting a Polymorph on Chaz. Because he realizes Chaz has to shift out here to heal because dampening is so high, and of course Chaz gets caught up in that polymorph, and that is really what sets them up here at 55% dampening. Full polymorph, Looney as well coming in clutch with the Cyclone, with the bash, and they manage to kind of pincer down Waz there at the end of that one with the Frozen Orb, and then Z-Pie coming on the other side. So Waz kind of has to pick, do I walk into the orb, do I walk into Z-Pie? He walks into the orb, and then of course they connect anyway, and the CC chain looks good. They managed to take it to match point.
All right, with where the chips have fallen, it looks like Wildcard Gaming may be able to take it. We're jumping to a quick break.
Wildcard Gaming have been playing two comps on large maps, the Munkin Alley. I don't think we're going to see the Munkin Alley because they're afraid of the Rogue Mage to lock it in blind, so they're going to just lock in the Mage Alley, which is I guess what they wanted, but then the map makes it very kind of strange. But they are playing the DK DH with a Resto Druid. Usually we see it with a Mistweaver, so maybe Chaz is going to play Feral Affinity and play aggressive. I don't know. I think the matchup is fine. The map pick is not that fine though.
And we've seen how important maps are. We've seen teams counter-comping less and less and focusing on what they see out of the map and then trying to adapt to that. If you scrub your screen clean right now, I'm not talking about the dust on it, just clear those names away. You look at the comps, this almost does seem like it is a 3-0, but Method Black is a team that you cannot count out. 240 points in Europe. They do not want to get sent home on Friday, but Wildcard Gaming has the power. Do they have the cards in their hand to get this done?
Can Wildcard Gaming drag this fight out into deep dampening and still maintain their mana to take down Swapsy is now the question. Method Black throwing this series away, locking in the largest map in the pool when their plan was to play a melee cleave. It's definitely peculiar in that regard and potentially a throwaway for the rest of this series. Getting 3-0'd by Wildcard Gaming, and then they would be evenly matched in terms of series so far this tournament circuit, 2-2. Definitely not looking good for them though.
Yeah, and normally when these two teams meet, it is very back and forth, and it feels like today, Wildcard Gaming, they have just brought their A game. They played very well in that last game, going up against a potential counter comp and destroying Method Black, and I think that really threw Method Black for a loop, and now reverting. Sorry, I can't speak. It's been a very long day. They're reverting back to this cleave composition to try to stay in this tournament and take down Morrow. It's going to be one of those longer games where they just try to wean Morrow, prevent him from really getting out too much damage, eventually Looney in this matchup, but I think if Looney's able to sneak off and get drinks, things will look good for Wildcard Gaming.
Yeah, Morrow's main objective is to avoid Swapsy and avoid Raikou. He got some good polymorphs and Frost Novas preventing Raikou's connection, although Swapsy has been having his way so far here in game number 3. Method Black have to win 3 in a row to stay alive in the lower bracket. This is an elimination match, everybody. Wildcard Gaming could just send home Method Black, the top point earners, potentially overthrow their reign and assert dominance in this spring season. Looney obviously doing his best to constantly get away from the fight, sit down for drinks at any opportunity to maintain that mana advantage for his team. Wildcard Gaming seem unfazed despite this fatiguing day.
Yeah, I really want to see. One thing I got to criticize Morrow on is I really feel like he doesn't utilize his water elemental enough. So much of this game is just sitting there doing nothing. I really feel like you could micromanage that a lot better, get out a little bit more damage. I feel like every point of damage definitely adds up in a matchup like this.
I actually haven't seen a single water bolt yet from that water elemental.
Yeah.
I've been staring at it since the game started.
Is that what we've been monitoring, the water element?
I have. These are the things I look for. I really want to see Morrow be able to min-max that damage. It's not just a shot on Morrow. I feel like a lot of the mages don't utilize that pet nearly enough because it is significant damage if it does sit there and channel the entire game. I have to see if he ends up using it. Swapsy, Cotton Polymorphs. Looks like Wildcard Gaming is going for the long strat. Once again, Method Black, they're forced into a defensive position, hiding behind the pillar.
I mean, maybe his objective is to keep the water elemental away from the Death Knight so he can't Death Strike it when he blinks. I mean, that's the only thing I could even consider for him not having it just at least attack somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have to see. It probably more than likely just has it macroed his pet attack into a Frostbolt, so he only really gets that pet rolling when he casts Frostbolt, but not really finding too many Frostbolts in this matchup, unfortunately. And yeah, losing out on that damage. Anyways, Raikou now getting bursted down as he moves and turns his attention onto Zeepai in this matchup. Looney's been doing a good job maintaining his mana, so you get a full mana rift there onto Looney in this matchup. Gets a little bit lower on mana, but Chaz still relatively even. The pressure has been even for both teams, which has been low for both teams.
Chaz is running Balance Affinity, which is typically a decision you make against a mage team so you can avoid Polymorph and still cast spells in the protection of that Balanced Druid form. However, I actually would like to see the team of Wildcard Gaming attack Chaz at a later stage in the fight because you lose out on Frenzied Regeneration that the Guardian Affinity would otherwise provide. That could be an opening for Wildcard Gaming, at least before dampening if Chaz overextends his position. Morrow doing everything in his power to just simply stall the fight. 3 Polymorphs into the Frost Nova to try and prevent Raikou from connecting. Morrow really not maximizing on that water elemental damage at all. I'm not entirely sure his strategy there other than potentially just a mismanagement of the pet overall. He's losing out on quite a bit of damage throughout this extended match. Raikou doing everything in his power to stay next to Looney to nail these mana rifts and burn down his mana as quickly as possible. Method Black are likely to have to rely on this composition for the rest of this series. I don't think that they set themselves up well here. They had the map pick and the comp pick advantage, and they really kind of threw it away with this lock in particular. Maybe they still have an opportunity, but Wildcard Gaming are looking solid here today.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I feel like they've really brought in their A game into this matchup. And the fact that Method Black didn't choose this composition on Ruins of Lordaeron makes me feel like they don't have the most confidence in it, and they're just trying to do whatever they can to try to come back in this series. Chaz getting a little bit low. Nice swap. I like what Zeepai is doing. I really enjoy when the Elemental Shamans, they go after the healers, really punish them for when they get aggressive, going for Cyclones, and they try to rot them down just a little bit.
Yeah, most certainly the case. Triple crowd control initiated by Wildcard Gaming. Raikou the target of the burst, but with that metamorphosis activated, he heals himself and leeches off of his attacks to heal himself much like a vampire, and before dampening, it is quite difficult to kill a Demon Hunter because of that, especially as a spellcaster cleave, such as the one that Morrow and Zeepai are running in this particular match.
Yep, Morrow in midfield, once again getting targeted down by Raikou. The one thing about this matchup is Method Black really hasn't been able to find too many mana rifts onto onto Looney. Looney's been doing a good job avoiding them. Zeepai and Morrow have been doing a good job making sure Raikou's caught in Frost Novas, Lightning Lassos, Polymorphs, and he just can't get those mana rifts off on cooldown, and Looney's been able to maintain his mana because of that.
Yep, definitely here. As we've stepped foot into dampening at 4%, this game is inevitably going to close. Method Black are against the wall, down 2 points in an elimination series in the lower bracket. They will be sent home, and that is not the performance that we expect from them. They were the dominant point earner last year. They're the dominant point earner potentially up until this point. Wildcard Gaming look to advance and overthrow the king that is Method Black in the European region. We see some newcomers in the upper bracket asserting their dominance in the pumpers. ABC have appeared to have broken their slump, bringing in a new composition. There is definitely a lot of power bubbling up in the brackets of Europe.
Yeah, there's a lot of really strong teams this year, and it really just goes to show when you see Wildcard Gaming and Method Black battling for their lives in the lower bracket, you know that the competition is fierce. This would normally be a grand final of one of these tournaments, and now one of these teams is looking like Method Black could just be locked out or knocked out before Championship Sunday, and that's normally what we don't see from these guys. Morrow now still looking for polymorphs, just trying to slow down the game. I don't know. Who do you think the main target is going to be for Wildcard Gaming as we move forward?
I mean, the main target is Swapsy and Dampening, but I think attacking Chaz, if he extends out in the open, is definitely an option that they should take advantage of every single time that it's available. I think Chaz is actually the most likely target to die in this specific matchup if he's ever overextended. It does appear to be the case that Method Black want to gun down the healer Looney with Dampening ramping up. They can get more mana rifts in and dish out a bit of pain. Looney now is able to escape to safety, looking to try and deny Chaz from getting a drink. Earthquake from Zeepai denies that. Wildcard Gaming look unfazed throughout this entire tournament, despite it being such long Dampening matches. They look completely on point moving through this. They've definitely had a lot of experience in Dampening. We would say that Wildcard Gaming are the kings of it, and definitely showcasing it here against Method Black. However, the picks from Method Black seem to be a bit of a throwaway, and Wildcard Gaming are more than happy to take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. Morrow still getting trained down. Swapsy with good counter pressure there. 20% dampening. Chaz's mana, I'm curious to see what it is. Anytime Chaz is chasing Looney to try to slow down the drinks, like I said, Zeepai does a good job counter pressuring him, and mana's actually even. Looney's still sneaking away, looking for another sip of water. If he can channel that out, will regenerate his mana. He sneaks off into a corner. We'll have to see if anyone from Method Black actually finds him. Swapsy getting low, and as Dampening gets higher, Swapsy's going to be more of a vulnerability for his team than an asset. Death Strike isn't going to be nearly as effective for Swapsy, and that means that Morrow and Zeepai can really lay in, and Swapsy's going to have a difficult time actually getting away.
A lot of Necrotic Strikes stacked up on Zeepai, absorbing a lot of Looney's healing, and Raikou is spreading the pressure onto 2 targets. Looney's going to have to expend a lot of mana, tons of regrowth cast potentially to recover through this at 21% dampening. Morrow is trying to buy him time with some polymorphs on Raikou, but even still struggling to stabilize in the face of 22% dampening. But they have left Morrow open. He isn't being targeted. If he is able to free cast these frost bolts, he could potentially carry the team. Looney jumps on top of Chaz, denies him from regenerating mana, keeps that battle at least a lot more even, slightly in his favor actually moving forward. The real defense now they need to start cracking is the darkness from Raikou, the anti-magic zone of Swapsy. If they can start forcing these, which they have now in this position, anti-magic zone, that purple bubble protecting Swapsy, but he's kind of locked down in midfield with the way that he's positioned it. A couple death strikes, able to restabilize, but that's one defense on the objective list out of the way. The next one is Raikou's darkness, and then after that, there's not much defense really to keep Swapsy alive. Dampening will be too high, but there's the swap. I love this swap on Chaz. They get Barkskin. Maybe they get darkness on this push. They get his Gladiator's medallion. Good swap by Wildcard Gaming. I love the pressure they're bringing. They definitely came prepared today.
Yeah, with the way Morrow's built his character, these Frostbolts are going to be very scary. He's playing both Tunnel of Ice and Flash Freeze, so now that Method Black has gotten off of him, Morrow's going to be able to just basically free cast these Frostbolts, do out significant damage, and Swapsy's going to be very frayed in just a few short minutes, or potentially just right now. Looney getting lower. Raikou's still just chasing him down in this matchup. Finds the Fell Eruption into the Mana Rift. Looney's mana is not doing great, but I don't think Chaz has had many opportunities in this game either. Although his mana is significantly better than Looney, Wildcard Gaming, they still have a lot of defensives. Morrow has both of his Ice Blocks available. Looney getting imprisoned there. Does deny a little bit of his healing, get mana rifted once again, and now Looney's basically completely tapped, and this is exactly where Method Black wants this match to be.
Yeah, Looney's got nothing left in the tank. If he manages to pull it off from this position, he's literally a legend here against Method Black. Potentially they get it. Darkness, they need it. Raikou's overextended, out of position. He can't trade. Fortunately, Chaz has a couple of quick heals in his pocket, but they need it. Swapsy's getting bursted. Raikou still isn't there. I would have loved to maybe seen the Thunderstorm saved to knock Swapsy out of darkness. Raikou is still so far out of position to make his way back. now reconvening onto both Looney and Swapsy. Maybe a bit of mistimed positioning by Looney. He immediately realizes that. He needs to get away from Method Black's pillar, try and look for a drink, because if Raikou and Swapsy overextend, they could fall here at 35% dampening. Still, Darkness the only defense, but Raikou is nowhere to be found. Lightning Lasso dealing devastation here as Swapsy's left all alone. Raikou, are you just going to leave Swapsy and let him die? Swapsy ducks away but around the corner. Maybe he just trusts him, but this is a risky gamble to take on match point.
Yeah, Morrow gets gripped in, but he still has both of his ice blocks available, and Raikou's nowhere to be found. Swapsy really just can't move into the midfield. Zeepai and Morrow have him pinned down right now on this pillar. Swapsy moving forward, trying to get some damage rolling, but every second he's in the open makes it scarier and scarier for Chaz to actually heal him up. Chaz actually looking for a drink at this point in the game. They need to be able to shut it down. If Chaz regenerates mana here, it's going to be a disaster for Wildcard Gaming. I think he's actually able to find it. No, capstun coming in from Zeepai. That stun from the totem will shut down Chaz's drink. Looney now in stealth, regenerating a little bit of mana from being out of combat, but Chaz chases him, keeps him in combat. Morrow getting low as he kites away. Swapsy once again in midfield, no anti-magic zone available, but Raikou all over Morrow, putting out massive pressure.
Looney caught in a bash. Two members of Wildcard Gaming are low on health. Method Black have their win condition. Looney is tapped on mana. Now they just have to push forward and deal tons of damage. Ironbark stabilizes the fight just for now. Morrow still not utilizing that water elemental this deep into dampening. Definitely an error on his part to not maximize his damage, at least at this point where he does have a clear win condition. Now forced into an ice block, pinned down on the back foot as Wildcard Gaming are likely to be taken out here on game number 3. Method Black, though, need to win 2 more in a row if they can manage to pull it off. They're not entirely all the way just yet. Morrow blinks away. Swapsy has to overextend. Anti-magic shield buys him enough defense to keep going. Chaz moves in to maybe get some crowd control. Maledict soaks up a lot of healing as Morrow will fall on game number 3. Method Black stay alive in the tournament.
And we knew that they should be able to, but the comp was the main question heading into this, right? This is when Wildcard Gaming looked to be a huge threat to potentially close this out in a 3-0. Why did this comp manage to work here, Zico, on this larger map of Ashmane's Fall?
Well, it just seems like a comfort pick for Method Black. This is what gets them these wins. And this composition, I mean, they work with it very, very well. You have Raikou chasing the enemy healer, consistently throwing out those mana rifts, making sure that they get the winning condition on mana, which kind of disrupts the whole flow of the whole Resto Druid and Frost Mage, where you want to set up those drinks. And then, of course, at this point in the game as well, they managed to finally start forcing out these ice blocks from Morrow. Those Maledicts are just coming in. Chaz looking for a drink, not gonna be able to find it. Actually is able to find it. Looney on the flip side though, not gonna be able to find that. And then at this point in the game, dampening is just too high. Looney has no mana left to work with. Everything has been rifted away, as you can see right there. Raikou throws in another mana rift there, and Zeepai's healing is also going to be negated by that Maledict trinket. So at this point in the game, they also take away a good map for them, so it's not too bad at all. But they need to do this one more time, potentially lock in this composition blind, and then after that, they might be playing on Tolveron Arena as well, which is even worse than Ashmane's for this strategy.
That's basically what I do want to ask here, because Wildcard Gaming obviously is going to have a lot more to work with, being the team that has all the momentum here, that is one away from closing it out. When we look at Method Black, they have to lock in something blind. And when we talk about this being comfort, do we expect to see this composition potentially in the next 2 games from them?
Yes, I would want to say yes to that question, but it also depends on map picks. If they lock in Tolveron Arena, they could play Mage Elemental Resto Druid as well. They would most likely be facing the Moonkin Elemental Resto Druid from Wildcard Gaming, but Method Black lost playing that matchup, so it doesn't seem to be too bad of a matchup. And at that point, it would be either a Mage Ellie mirror or a Boomkin Ellie versus Mage Ellie, which seems like they're slightly unfavored, but still very much a winnable matchup. But on any medium or small size map, I would expect this composition to be locked in blind.
So if you are on the side of Wildcard Gaming right now, you get to pick the map. Do you go for something larger?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we might even see one of the largest maps.
I would go with Tolveron.
Yeah, I think you just go for Tolveron, try to close it out. That is the nice thing about Ashmane's, though, as you did kind of suggest. It also blocks a map. You take away one of those good maps. We know that they can win on the large map, but that is going to just edge slightly on the side of Wildcard Gaming. Sid, what do you want to see as we do move through this draft?
I mean, we've seen also Windwalker DK Restoration Druid with Feral Affinity do pretty effective in North America with the boys running that with Gorecki. I'm not sure how much experience Looney has in that regard, and he's not typically the healer to be aggressive, although he has his moments and he definitely picks them effectively. He's not known for all-out aggression, so it may not be a stylistic move for him overall, which if is the case, that it's more likely they want to go to Tolvaron Arena. And Method Black, it was looking maybe a bit shaky on Ashermains. This is an even bigger battlefield, so but I don't think they have any other choice. They're just going to blind lock the same thing, the Demon Hunter Death Knight Restoration Druid, and Wildcard Gaming has 2 more games to figure out their answer. This sets them up well to go for a Wizard composition. If it doesn't work, then they've still got Game 5 to go to a small map and try and out-cleave them. Method Black have to just rely on solid play in one composition.
Yeah, and you look on the side of Method Black, and we kind of assume, we know how they do pick. They're going to run the clock here, but there's a good chance that they already do know exactly what they are going to do in this situation. Because Wildcard Gaming, it's not rocket science at this point. Wildcard Gaming is just in the best spot that you could possibly be in, right? It really is an uphill battle for Method Black, and somewhat of a miracle, even with a team that is this good, that can go toe-to-toe with Wildcard Gaming and has beaten them in the past. And I do want to say, if we see Method Black go down here, they secure 40 points. So that's going to be 280 points for them. If Wildcard Gaming gets second place, that's a tie. If they get first place in this tournament, they will be the first place team in Europe. So there is a lot going on for Wildcard Gaming right now. The pressure's definitely on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so far they've been looking good in that last game. I feel like there's a few questionable decisions in terms of just their offense. I think it could have been done a little bit better in terms of their Azurite gearing, some of their honor talents, just min-maxing damage. I think definitely adds up in a matchup like that, and I think if they do make those adaptations in this game, that they could definitely pull out the victory against Method Black.
Man, yeah, you definitely, if Wildcard Gaming doesn't win this, they all of a sudden really do start to fall behind. Like, for Method Black to come out this early and be as dominant as they were by, you know, kind of the end of the first season, I guess even the second cup, I think the first cup was probably their worst performance, right? And it was Wildcard Gaming, well, what that team was that won.
Yes, last year, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they made second or third.
I think they got third, which was like their worst placing of the year or something like that.
Yeah, they got third, and then they won every single cup.
Yeah.
This could be their worst placing in 2 years or a year and a half.
It's pretty cool.
Well, besides in a cup, yeah.
And a cup.
NA got
actually
first
in a LAN too, because at spring they got third, at summer they won, and at BlizzCon they got third.
Wow, that's actually crazy. Yeah, because
so I was gonna say we could see the Arcane Mage coming here from Wildcard Gaming. Now, in my mind, this is actually not that bad of a matchup for Method Black if they choose to go after Blizzo. Now, if they end up chasing Maru again, I think they will be walking home from this one.
Do you think that they learned that lesson, though? Because this is basically something that we have already seen. At the very beginning, it looked like Method Black was doing exactly what you're saying. They're focusing on Morrow. They're not stopping any pressure. He's having a field day because, like you said, as the Arcane Mage, you want to be the disruptor. You're not doing that with damage. You don't have that much damage to work with. Did Method Black start to adapt in that game and start actually going on to Blizzo?
Well, at the very, very end of that game, they almost killed Blizzo, but I felt like they were far too behind there. And also, I like with the build that Maru is running, you can straight up ignore him, and he's not going to be doing that much damage. He's not going to be mana burning Chas that effectively either. His arcane build in general and his gearing was kind of lackluster actually in game number 1.
What didn't you like about it?
Can I say everything?
Yeah, you can. But,
so,
but for anyone,
no, I'll motivate why I say everything, of course. So he was running Resonance instead of Charged Up, and Resonance is fine to pick against DK. I personally am not a big fan of it because the building of charges is super slow now compared to before because you can't spam out those Arcane Explosions. But if you are playing Resonance, you are going to be using Arcane Explosion a fair amount, and in which case you want to be playing Reverberate, which means that if you hit more than 3 targets or more than 2 targets, with Arcane Explosion, you have a 40% chance of getting an extra charge. If you are playing that build, you want to basically be spamming Arcane Explosion and Barrage and do massive cleave damage. He was running Netta Tempest. For Azurite traits, the best ones are Arcane Pressure. He was running Galvanizing Spark as well as Equipose, which is essentially that your Arcane Blast hits a little bit harder and also has a small chance of giving you an extra Arcane charge. For gearing, he was stacking mainly Mastery, which is just not as good as Versatility. There was just a lot of things, honestly.
Yeah.
If we're going to be honest, there was a lot of issues I saw. If you ignore him, he's not going to be doing much damage. And I think the biggest one as well is Klepto. He was not playing it. I don't like playing Arcane Mage and just spamming spell steal the whole game because you're essentially not using any other globals for damage. If your winning strategy is to win on mana, Klepto and spamming damage is more mana cost for the enemy healer than just spamming spell steal. So there's a few for you, Rich.
I thought you were being dramatic. That was actually every single choice that you make as an Arcane Mage. So, okay, maybe we see Morrow change at least one of those.
Also, he was running Battle Master Trinket when you are it's like playing a tank with a Battle Master Trinket. But what do you think of Battle Master on Arcane Mage, Van?
I don't think you need it. I don't think you're going to die against a cleave setup.
I have to agree.
You can run more damage.
Okay. If you would go for more damage, so obviously we do kind of know. We haven't talked about trinkets as much because it is something that for the first two cups we really did see exactly what we expect to see mostly here. One of those defensive options obviously going to be Safeguard, but we see that offensive option being Maldic. We see pretty much everybody running that. What is another offensive option that you could use?
Well, the reason I think a lot of these players, I've been looking at their gear, a lot of them actually are using Battle Masters, and I think one of the reasons is because it helps you survive during Maledict, because it just increases your max HP, increases your health. It's not a heal, so it doesn't get absorbed by that Maledict trinket. So I think defensively it's not a bad option, but I just don't think as an Arcane Mage in this particular matchup you're going to be taking that much damage. So you can use the proc trinket, which just has versatility on it. That's going to give you a little bit more defense as well as offense, and then it just randomly gives you extra intellect as well. So that's definitely one great option to get out extra pressure.
Yeah, I think when we are actually jumping in on the plugin, which you guys can use to actually check out every single thing, you can check out the entire build, you can check out what they are using as far as Azerite traits are concerned, and that is going to be powered by Wowhead, of course. You can actually see all that. We've seen this versatility trinket getting used quite a bit, Sid.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious to see if Morrow changes his build after Zico's Gordon Ramsay mage-style critique there of his decisions.
Hey, for the record, his mechanics were really good. The way he actually approached the matchup was fine. Like I liked everything.
He actually just heard what you said. I heard what you said.
Hold on, abort.
All right. So, yeah, no, I think that's never been a question with Morrow. Mechanically, he's always fantastic. Yeah. But when you do look at his builds, obviously you're very critical here right now of what he did with Arcane. But typically, is that something that you're critical of with Morrow, or are you usually praising what he does?
Well, usually I praise most of his gameplay, and it's very minor things that, in general, that I would critique in his gameplay. I mean, him and Raikou were really the forefront of mages last year when it came to just in general mage gameplay. So definitely I have a lot of respect for him in that regard. But at the same time, I mean, today at least, there was definitely a lot of questionable decisions in terms of talents and build.
And even with that, though, Wildcard Gaming is just one game away from taking it, right? So I think ultimately here, yes, maybe you do have some questions. I think Mara is probably the best mage in the world. Yeah. Can't think of anybody who takes down Morrow. Not even Zico. Or Ben.
I'm not saying I'm better than Morrow. I'm just saying that
no, it doesn't say that.
Was not what I would personally pick. But
no. Your critique is.
He's a phenomenal mage, and his gameplay backs it up. His mechanics backs it up, but his choices in general, like his theory of those choices, just weren't as good.
All right, you heard it here live. Zico is better than Morrow, confirmed.
One more game, and Wildcard Gaming can take down Method Black to play against Zico in the grand final.
All right, let's see what Method Black can get done in this matchup. Are they going to go after Morrow once again? We said that was a waste of time for them in the last matchup. We'd rather them go after Blizzo. Blizzo's actually made some talent adaptations. He's playing the Fortifying Brew in this matchup, so maybe he expects Method Black to go after them. That little bit of extra defense can definitely keep him alive.
Yeah, most certainly could be the case. I really don't want to see them attack Morrow, especially on 12 on Arena. That has to be a mistake. Chaz is running Feral Affinity. He could actually add a lot of extra damage to his team and create some spread pressure as well. I want to see how Chaz utilizes that Feral Affinity, because so far, in my opinion, Gorecki has been the only druid to effectively utilize its strength while still avoiding the weaknesses that it brings into a fight. Chaz currently at the pillar trying to stabilize through this attack, trading effectively for the Touch of Death, and now that the attack has all but been thwarted. I would like to see Chaz start to get aggressive here in cat form. Swapsy back to basically full HP. Chaz moving in, getting it Rake up onto Blizzo. It's very important with that Feral Affinity that you at least put Rake on the target that your team is going after. That then lets you generate combo points with Shred moving forward for a Rip or a Ferocious Bite if you want to go for Big Burst. Obviously, you want to be looking for Re-Stealth, so Chaz right there snuck around the corner, dropped Combat, activated Prowl, and jumped in, and bonusing that Rake ability to stun from stealth, allowing his team to set up some burst off the back of it. Chaz so far looks good.
Yep, nicely done by Maro as well. As soon as Chaz activated his Innervate, which is going to make all of his heals free, Maro double blinked in and was able to use the Kleptomania talent to immediately remove that from Chaz. So Chaz basically got no free healing with that ability, and you often see mages do this, and I think it's a high priority for these mages, especially when Wildcard Gaming's main objective in this matchup is to burn Chaz's mana.
Chaz has been getting a lot of re-stealth stuns for his team, and it is starting to show its advantage in Looney's mana bar, having to heal through just that added bit of extra damage. Paralysis set up here by Blizzo, looking to try and execute for a kill on Raikou. Raikou avoiding it with that Blade Dance well-timed during a hard-hitting spell. Blizzo still seems reluctant to switch targets. Swapsy is more than likely going to be the target deep in dampening, but before we get to that point, they do not want to deal with Death Strike. Raikou is more vulnerable. Caught into a stun. Crowd control looks good. They managed to pull the trinket from Chaz as well as the Iron Bark. Nice play on part of Wildcard Gaming. They are still on match point and looking solid.
Yeah, there's actually a graphical error. Blizzo is not actually playing the Fortifying Brew. He's going with the Reverse Harm, the Turbo Fist, and the Disarm once again. So he'll have that available to sort of counter Swapsy whenever he's trying to heal himself up. Swapsy's actually running the Honor Talent Transfusion, which generates runic power and reduces the runic power cost of Death Strike by 50%. So having the grapple weapon is a direct counter to that Honor Talent, and definitely something I think Blizzo's doing an excellent job mitigating from Swapsy.
Ooh, another walk now forced from Raikou. The damage output from Wildcard Gaming is quite immense here in Game 4. Even before we have gotten to dampening, they've forced critical defensive cooldowns from the lineup of Method Black, but when we move deeper into dampening, they won't have that to rely on. In the meantime, Raikou is trying to launch an assault here, landing a double stun onto the opposing team, but now getting caught overextended. Big damage follows it up. Chaz deflects.
Yep, Chaz did a good job slowing down that assault. Spell steal coming in from Maro once again. He activates the Temporal Shield to heal up through some of this damage. Chaz now caught into an incapacitate as Blizzo and Maro looking to get some pressure rolling onto Swapsy, but we saw what happened on the Grand Arena. It took a lot of time for Wildcard Gaming to actually take down Swapsy. It was one of those games that lasted a very long time. Until Swapsy's healing is reduced from Death Strike, I think it's very unlikely that Wildcard Gaming is actually able to take him down.
Yes, it is looking to be the case that dampening is a necessity between these two top-tier teams, and we are getting ever so close to it now. Looney makes a trade for this I-Beam activation from Raikou. I like the grapple weapon timing on I-Beam so that Raikou doesn't gain bonus damage on his Annihilation, as he cannot use it with no weapon. Blizzo is definitely mixing up the usage of that Honor Talent. Instead of using it to deny Death Strike, he is now using it during critical burst moments from Raikou to slow down the pace of the game and extend it into dampening, which I do imagine is required for their team to ultimately net a kill. Looney actually getting swapped to here by Method Black. They're getting a bit cheeky before dampening, trying to create some windows, but Looney just walks it off. Raikou, though, still on target. Blizzo trying to snare him up and deny a reconnect, protecting Looney. Looney now on par with Chaz, I do believe. No, slightly behind on mana here, moving into dampening. Looney's going to want to look to try and make sure he can drink at some point to get that disadvantage in his own favor.
Yep, Maro in the midfield, still looking for some crowd control on Raikou to slow him down. Double leg sweep, nicely done there by Blizzo. They're taking advantage of that double leg sweep on Chaz, actually swapping to him. Touch of Death gets committed. Can they take Chaz down? He's able to retreat behind the pillar, and I think Chaz ultimately will survive. And they committed quite a bit there. They used the Touch of Death, and all they got was the Barstein as well as a few of their Maledics. So good offensive push by Wildcard Gaming, but really doesn't net them anything.
Swapsy actually dropped Anti-Magic Zone. Maybe he doesn't think the Arcane Mage is that big of a threat, so he's opting to just lose that defense and get more offense to try and push the team down. That may be the case. It's a risky move on his part to do so, going for the Raise Abomination instead, but that can actually be avoided by both a Windwalker and an Arcane Mage. I'm not sure if I'm entirely sold on that swap pick by Swapsy. Looney being attacked by Raikou, trades Bark Skin. Bear form, super effective at sustaining himself. Getting Tigers lusted by Blizzo. Good backup from Blizzo, and we've credited him historically on Warrior for the strongest Warrior overall, especially in terms of defense. If you're on a team and having a hard time as a healer, you certainly want Blizzo in your court, and he's definitely showing that, proving it to us here today in game number 4. But ultimately, Chaz has just got a huge lead on mana. This composition from Method Black is looking solid, and unless Wildcard Gaming can develop a huge wave of damage to take down Swapsy, start getting Icebound Fortitude out of the way with dampening ramping up, I think that Method Black are looking to take this to a game 5.
Potentially. Wildcard Gaming, like we kind of talked about, it took them a little bit long on the Grand Arena to actually get anything going, but eventually it's just really difficult to stay, for Swapsy to stay on target and getting the healing he needs to survive. But I think this split strategy is really smart. With Raikou just sitting on Morrow, his ability to just spam out arcane missiles, his damage is really going to be limited by the fact that Raikou has so much disruption with the Fell Eruption, with the Imprisonment, with his Interrupt. It will slow down Morrow quite a bit, but Swapsy still having a difficult time getting topped off. Chaz having to use a lot of mana, but it's Looney that's far behind, and I feel like what Method Black is doing by putting Swapsy on Blizzo and putting Raikou on Morrow is really taxing Looney's mana.
Yeah, it most certainly is, and inevitability is the case here for that mana bar of Looney as Raikou continues to burn it down. Chaz with that Feral Affinity, although he's not really maximizing his damage, he is definitely getting a lot of effective stuns and just adding a little bit of an X factor for his team. Now stunning up Blizzo. I would like to see Chaz get a bit more aggressive with the Feral Affinity against an Arcane Mage. You can't really keep Chaz off his back, and you actually add a huge amount of damage. Right now, he's actually trying to lead the charge for his team to force an Ice Block from Morrow. Looney, so low on mana, has constantly been running laps around the arena. We're going to need somebody in chat to get a lap counter in this series with these Druids constantly looking for drinks. Looney finally not able to get really much there off the back of that attempt. Morrow now caught in a stun. Good initiation by the team of Method Black. They're looking a lot more solid here in game 3 and 4.
Yeah, we don't actually need chat. I've been keeping track of it through this game while shoutcasting. It's been about 42 times he's crossed and circled around the map.
No, you haven't. You're just trying to look impressive on stream.
Nope.
No.
I was keeping track too.
You got the same number, right?
Yes, exact same number.
Yep, the math
42.
checks out. Go watch the VOD if you don't believe me. You'll have to see what happens.
Count for yourself.
Yeah, Looney looking for number 43. Swapsy now taking quite a bit of damage. Chaz trying to keep him topped off. Morrow finding a little bit of burst as well with the Temporal Shield. He deflects that damage, still throwing out the spell steals. It's very annoying for Chaz. Morrow's able to take away all those heal overtime effects, and then Chaz, he has to continuously put them back up, but it's not that taxing on his mana. And every time Morrow uses a global on spell steal, that's a global he's not doing of damage. So it is effective, but Zico was saying he would rather see the Kleptomania talent, and that frees Morrow up a little bit more to get off significant damage between the Kleptomania downtime.
All right, we've moved into dampening. This is the territory where Death Knights dare not tread as their Death Strike becomes increasingly less effective. Blizzo leads the charge, looking to pull many defensive cooldowns on this Touch of Death. Raikou denies his burst by imprisoning him, preventing damage. Morrow gets stunned and prevented on dealing damage himself. Good deflection by Method Black throughout this exchange. Swapsy activating that Raise Abomination. Morrow Frost Novaing it and able to avoid it. And this is why I don't necessarily like the Raise Abomination pick. If Blizzo wants to, he can teleport away or use Touch of Karma to redirect the damage of that Abomination, increasing his damage quite heavily. I don't like that Honor Talent selection on Swapsy's part. Maybe it could be possible for Wildcard Gaming to capitalize on it. Chaz, though, with the Feral Affinity has been carrying. There's pressure on all 3 members of Wildcard Gaming, and Looney doesn't have a lot of mana left.
Yeah, Swapsy on 50% health, but Blizzo's low as well. Oh. Nice grapple weapon by Blizzo. Swapsy could be in some trouble. Chaz has to respond with the Iron Bark. Regrowth spam should keep Swapsy alive, but Looney in a lot of trouble as well. And Blizzo, he's not out of it. He doesn't have any defensive cooldowns left. Swapsy might be able to take him down. Good Cyclone coming in from Chaz that slow down any heals that Looney would put out onto Blizzo, especially with that Iron Bark. He's not going to get the additional healing that he needs desperately when he's so low on mana. Raikou and Swapsy could just convene on Blizzo right now, and they might be able to take him down. Ooh. But good pressure on Swapsy as well. Blizzo getting low, saves the Diffuse Magic to try to survive. He needs the portal out of line of sight. He's kiting away, doing everything he can, but Swapsy and Raikou all over him. Morrow in desperation spamming out the polymorphs. Looney looking to keep Blizzo alive, and they may have done it. If he has the Turbo Fist, they might be able to turn around this pressure onto Swapsy with the full bash. allows Swapsy and Raikou to keep the pressure up on Blizzo.
It's looking like Method Black are going to tie it up and take it to a Game 5 here, as it is good night for Blizzo. Method Black stay alive in the tournament. One more match. It didn't work out for Wildcard Gaming in this 2-game advantage. They've only got one more opportunity to come up with something. What are they going to do?
And you look at this series, and it is deserving of a Game 5. It's going to get it. Method Black versus Wildcard Gaming. And this is a thing with Method Black. Like, this is a team that does reverse sweep. They figure stuff out. Did they do what you thought they were going to do? Did they change who their focus was?
Well, I liked what they were doing in general. We had Raikou, as expected, kind of going over onto Looney, making sure that he can't drink, mana burning him, but he was also putting up more pressure onto the DPS, and sometimes Chaz was the one kind of babysitting Looney, making sure that he wasn't able to get those drinks. Swapsy spent a lot less time chasing Maro. In the end, they take down Blizzo, of course, which I think is the best target for them to go after. And of course, Maro on that Arcane Mage, when he is ignored playing this build, he's just not able to dish out nearly enough damage. And when you don't have the Kleptomania as well, if you get ignored, well, you're standing there spamming spell steal, but you're the one on the back foot, so it's not actually generating any pressure when you're doing that. So I liked Method Black's adaptation, and this is also a way better map than Nagrand, so they've definitely learned their lesson here. And now the ball is kind of, the cards are in their hand.
There you go.
That was better.
That was great. And as production says, it all comes down to this, Sid.
Wait, am I supposed to know this?
No, that's not it. It just says
that's just
it
what it
comes
means.
down to this, because this game's going to. That's a pretty well-known expression.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was just a normal phrase that you would use in the
That's
English
what an expression is.
Yeah, but it doesn't have any sort of meaning, deeper meaning.
Well, it does have a pretty clear meaning. It means the next game is what it comes down to. It comes down to this.
Okay.
What on earth just happened? It's literally our job to say what's going on.
I think that they could have been more creative.
Okay.
They've been here for how many series now since Rest of Production?
I love them.
I'm actually blown away right now. Okay, we're gonna figure out what map is going to be the final map for this series. It all comes down to this map, Fenriky.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, things are all tied up, and this is what happens when these two teams go up against each other. I really wonder what map selection that Wildcard Gaming is going to go with. I feel like the Arcane Mage Windwalker, that kind of caught Method Black by surprise, but now that they're used to it, I don't think things really get too much better for Wildcard Gaming. Arcane Mages, they're pretty good, but once you kind of figure out how to deal with them, they're not necessarily too bad, and I think Method Black has a really solid composition overall, and if they implement that same strategy where Raikou kind of just harasses Looney, Swapsy makes sure he tries to deal damage as much as he can to Blizzo to really put 2 pressure points on the team, Looney eventually will go out of mana.
That's pretty much exactly what Zico was saying as well when he was talking about that Arcane Mage and really kind of talking about what the strengths were, what the drawbacks were. And you basically said, I am most annoyed when I'm on the Arcane Mage, and I'm actually just allowed to do whatever I want, which is the opposite of how you feel with most specs.
Well, you feel really strong as an Arcane Mage when you're being trained down and you're constantly getting off your barrages and you have Chrono Shift, you're sprinting around and you're basically limiting the amount of damage the enemy team can do. But when you're just left alone, you aren't that big of a threat, and I think what Zico was saying was right. The enemy team just ends up getting more pressure than you do, free casting, and becomes scary.
Also, Maro dropped his Battlemaster for that game.
Yep.
Might be listening.
Yeah, now he's ready to go.
Yeah,
duel
well,
Zico.
guess what? He lost the game, he dropped it, so.
Not because he dropped it. He still had his ice block when the game was over.
Take Zico's advice and lose the game.
But maybe Method Black took my advice as well.
Maybe we'll see Maro on the casting desk if he keeps listening to what Zico's saying. Method Black going to...
Will still be another high-rated player on this desk, Rich.
Yeah.
Here's what I don't understand. This is one thing that I would like to get your guys' insight on is Method Black, they have the composition that sent Wildcard Gaming to the lower bracket. Elemental Shaman, Assassination Rogue, Druid. And Wildcard Gaming seems like they have the answers for what Method Black has prepared, but they just lost to that composition. Method Black could play that comp even better than we saw in the upper bracket from ABC, potentially. So I don't know why they don't at least experiment with it.
So I'm not even high enough rated to talk in the chat. So you guys are going to have to take that one. Zico, what do you think of what Ben just said?
I'm sorry, Rich. We'll queue a little bit later.
Sid's the only one who ever accuses me on everybody here. Ben hits me up for a key maybe at like Monday night at like 2 a.m. He's like, hey.
That's only if you're in a party with Sours. It's not.
Hey, Sours. How you
Sid
doing?
only queues with you on his alts, okay? So I'll give you some of that main treatment later.
Shout out to Colo, who's actually going to queue with me.
No, but I do agree with what you guys are saying. The Rogue Ellie could definitely catch Wildcard Gaming by surprise here. The Rogue Ellie, we saw it actually on this map as well, take them down in the upper bracket, so could definitely be a contending pick for Method Black. I don't really know. Wildcard Gaming might have, taken the time from that series to figure something out, and maybe they even got a war game or two in while the others were playing. So maybe it's a bit risky, but I feel like Method Black, if they lock in the Demon Hunter, Death King, what does Wildcard Gaming actually even have to respond to that? It feels like their melee cleave isn't superior to Method Black's when they play the Windwalker Death Knight.
And also those big maps that we kept talking about, they're out of the way. We're on the smallest map in Hook Point right now, so Method Black is going to be playing that cleave as well. And I just want to go over the numbers one more time, because really the main focus of these tournaments is going to be the standings. We see the top team from each region, they go all the way to the finals. The top 4 make it to each LAN each season. So when we do look at Method Black and Wildcard Gaming, they are fighting to be the top dog in their region. If we see Method Black taken down here, they will have 280 points, and we will see Wildcard Gaming potentially, if they take down this whole tournament, take 300 points and pull ahead.
I mean, it's a lot on the line for both teams. Method Black have at least kept it together here to bring it to a Game 5, but Wildcard Gaming picked a small map, and that makes me think they're going to go for a cleave mirror. Which cleave do they ultimately go with? I mean, they've only got Windwalker and Death Knight. I don't think they're going to play anything else. I'm trying to think of another option that they've got. Maybe a Boomkin. No, they won't want to go for that because they can't drink. Maybe Looney doesn't play Druid.
Yeah, I was actually just about to say that. I want to see Looney on the Mistweaver on this map, because
Mistweaver, yeah.
The Druid is not going to be able to drink that much. The Mistweaver is going to be very mana efficient, so I think if they play a cleave with the Mistweaver, that could potentially be what nets them the win.
And Zico, to take this a step further, because it was you who, not yet in this tournament, yeah, only one day of tournament 3, but when we were in the second cup, you kept talking about how when you looked at a lot of the cleaves, you didn't want to see Druid. You wanted to see maybe a Shaman, maybe a Mistweaver. What is it that makes you want to see these other healers when we actually do get down to brass tacks and see these melee cleaves?
Well, the Resto Druid on a large map is going to be the King Healer, because these melees, they can kind of self-sustain themselves. You have the Death Knight. He's going to be able to dish out a lot of Death Strikes. Very relatively short cooldown defensives, like the Anti-Magic Shell as well. Same thing goes for the Windwalkers and the Demon Hunters. And we are going to see a Resto Shaman. So not the Mistweaver, but Looney is a phenomenal Resto Shaman. He has won BlizzCon on this class. So this is also a very welcome pick. And the big reason for it is because if nobody drinks in a world where the Druid doesn't drink and the other healer doesn't drink, the food chain goes like this. At the bottom, you have Priest, just all specs of Priest. Then you have Resto Druid, and then you have kind of the Shaman and the Mistweaver. Actually, you have Holy Paladin and then the Shaman and the Mistweaver.
Yeah, where's Paladin?
Yeah, I forgot.
Wait, is Paladin over the Priest?
Sorry, Rob Carver.
You're trying the hierarchy.
Priest is the bottom.
Priest is at the very, very
Priest
bottom.
is the bottom, then Rub Cup, you said?
No.
That was funny.
Okay.
Funny. It's Priest, and then I would say, yeah, we have the Holy Paladins and we have the Resto Druids as well, very far down in terms of mana efficiency. And then the Shaman and the Mistweaver, I would say the Mistweaver is probably the best in terms of mana efficiency, and the Shaman is also good. Now, the reason why the Shaman is also better than the Mistweaver on a small map like this is because the Mistweaver is very susceptible to getting all in. So if Chaz, Raikou, and Swapsy coordinate 3 stuns with the triple Maledict combo, then a Mistweaver is likely to go down. Now, a Shaman on the other end, he can pre-Ghost Wolf, and if he does, sit in Ghost Wolf when that combo is happening, because it takes so much time to kill a Shaman in those stun lock, you actually get a lot of healing, and then you can come out, you can use your Spirit Link Totem. It's not gonna really be affected by those Maledicts in the same way as, for example, a Life Cocoon from the Mistweaver. So I like the Shaman, and Looney is probably better on the Shaman as well, considering he has so much experience on it. So this is a really nice pick from Wildcard Gaming. It's going to be up to Chaz to get drinks, and it's also going to be up to Raikou and Swapsy to target Blizzo and really make him run away a lot. I want to see Blizzo as the main target, and I want to see a lot of mana rifts onto Looney.
All right, let's see if Method Black can get Blizzo in their sights, if that's going to be their main target. But we got Looney right now on a spec that he's managed to win on the biggest stage with to try to keep Blizzo nice and safe. Hook, line, and sinker, it all comes down to this hook point, going to decide which of these teams moves forward in Cup number 3.
Yeah, and I think it's likely for Wildcard Gaming they're going to be going after Swapsy in this matchup. They can prevent some of that healing, especially with how Blizzo's been playing that disarm weapon. I think if they can limit some of the healing that Swapsy has available to himself with that Death Strike, eventually he could potentially fall. Raikou, once again, looking for mana rifts onto Looney. And I'm kind of wondering if Raikou, with the mana rifts, is going to even out that mana between the Restoration Shaman and the rest of Druid.
Yeah, let's see if that is the case. Restoration Shaman was super effective at BlizzCon last year at dealing with this mana rift strategy, which may be a consideration for Looney as well. The small map denies the Druid from drinking, so they've set themselves up effectively in that regard. But Shaman's healing output is much more substantially lower than a Druid, so potentially Looney gets overwhelmed. There's still opportunity for either side to take this. It's game 5. It's the last game of the day either way, and one team will be going home, the other one with an opportunity to take the throne.
Yeah, normally we see these two teams go head-to-head in the grand finals, but now facing elimination early on in the tournament. Blizzo now looking for a Fist of Fury, getting some damage over on the Raikou. Still really wondering what Wildcard Gaming is going to do. I don't know if they're experienced in this matchup. Who's their main target going to be? Mana, Chaz actually has a lead. Blizzo getting bursted down as he's looking to pour it away and top himself off with some Vivifies. Looney looking for some heals. Raikou denies, nicely done with his interrupt. And now Blizzo could be in some trouble.
Most certainly can. He's actually very far behind on defensive cooldowns. Looney's locked out in crowd control. Blizzo protects himself with that Ring of Peace, buying a couple of seconds for Looney to get out of in prison and start to stabilize the team. Chaz now locked down in a stun as Wildcard Gaming go after him a bit, trying to spread the pressure evenly across the team. Maybe just all in and kill Chaz with purges. Looney has spent a lot of mana to do so and really not netted anything in terms of cooldowns, so this is a bit of an overextension on Looney's part, but maybe it's their only option.
Yeah, running down Chaz. How is he going to survive? Uses the Iron Bark, looking to get away, gets gripped back by Zeepai. If Blizzo and Zeepai can stay on target, Chaz could be in a lot of trouble. He's forced to trinket out. He still has his Bark Skin. Maledict's flying in from Wildcard Gaming. Darkness gets dropped out. Nicely done. Good pressure. Ring of Peace gets used by Blizzo. Chaz still could be in some trouble.
Yep, Chaz jumping away, trying to get to safety, but it's hook point. There is no safety on this map. I mean, look at that shark. It's dangerous. There's nowhere safe to run on hook point. Chaz locked down into another stun. Barkskin trades, but he's burning low on cooldowns. Maledict flies in. Is he going to dispel it? He may need to. He's trying to sit through it and save the mana, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to. Looney still has enough mana to just purge this all the way to victory. Wildcard Gaming go for an aggressive strategy, one that we have not seen in a long time, especially in this deep dampening meta, but perhaps they can catch Method Black off guard here on game number 5 as they look to stay on target. Chaz drops out Ursul's Vortex, pinning down both Blizzo and Zeepai, but they just keep marching. They just keep going. It is kill the healer or go home.
Yep, Chaz manages to stabilize, and Looney behind on mana at this point, but Chaz with no real defensives left. All Wildcard Gaming needs is one clean setup. Blizzo has the defensive cooldowns he needs to continue the push. He has Diffused Magic, Fortifying Brew, everything. Chaz gets stunned. This is potentially the final nail in the coffin, but Blizzo's just been caught into chains of ice. Really, Swapsy's been doing such a good job. Blizzo's been getting gripped away, chains of ice on him consistently, and really what's happening is Blizzo's just really struggling to stay on target, and now they have to give up the chase on Chaz.
I think I would have liked to have seen Wildcard Gaming do this all in, deeper in dampening. Make it look like you're going after a different target, save your mana, and then make a swap to Chaz. Use Ring of Peace to deny darkness, which would normally keep him alive for an all-in, and then net a kill. I think giving away your strategy this early on without dampening and how powerful healing currently is, it's just, you now made Chaz comfortable. And if he's comfortable on Druid, you're never going to kill him.
Yeah, Blizzo getting low. He has to use a Touch of Karma, gets Vortex back, and Method Black's been doing a really good job denying Wildcard Gaming so far. Blizzo, Zeepai still in hot pursuit. Chaz could be in some trouble. Yes, Barkskin, Iron Bark, and Trinket, all the tools he needs to survive. Looney almost completely tapped on mana with no Trinket available. Zeepai manages to get on target. Blizzo still just struggling with Chains of Ice on him. Finally connecting, Swapsy grips him away, and now look at Blizzo. No mobility left, Chains of Ice on him. Chaz just line of sighting him. Without Blizzo there to help Zeepai, there's no way Chaz dies.
Nice entangling route on Zeepai around the corner, allowing Chaz to easily recover. His defense is now more than ready and available, and it is Blizzo who is falling behind. Will Earthen Wall Totem be enough here for Looney to stabilize as Maledicts are flying in, soaking up his heals? He has managed to stay in the fight. He's got basically no mana left. The purges are going to start to subside. The advantage that Wildcard Gaming tried to take with a surprise is all but evaporated. They basically have nothing left. Spirit Link Totem by Looney. 1 second before that's done. Restabilizes the team, but now they could even run after Looney. Method Black hold all of the cards.
They definitely do. Looney completely out of mana. What are you going to do, Wildcard Gaming? Method Black, it seems like they're looking at aces in this matchup, and they've just been so solid throughout this, the entire day. Chaz still surviving, managing to escape. Blizzo chasing him down, forced to trade out his trinket. He has a touch of karma. There's a small window they have to take down Chaz. Chaz's mana is not great, and he is getting lower. With no Iron Bark, it might be difficult for him to recover. Blizzo feeling relatively healthy with that touch of karma, and that might be the damage they need to push Chaz over the edge. But Raikou, he has the darkness available as well. It's a solid defense for Method Black if they do manage to find it.
Blizzo locked down and stuns. Looney locked out of the fight as Raikou looks to close. Is Blizzo going to make the trade? He's trying to hold on to it, maybe for an all-in push. There's the touch of karma. They need to stay on target. If they can get Barkskin here, it would be critical to take out Chaz. They've actually burned a lot of his mana by just tunneling him down. Perhaps this will work. Raikou trades out Darkness. Where's the Ring of Peace? Instead, Fists of Fury into the Darkness? I mean, at least he gets the advantage of parrying the attacks, but I feel like a Ring of Peace there would have been much better suited. Maybe it wasn't available. Looney's completely tapped on mana at this point. Ring of Peace now a bit defensively, I guess, by Blizzo, but definitely not nearly as effective as it could have been. There's not much left standing in the way of Method Black's reverse sweep here on game number 5. Seconds away from potentially closing the fight. Looney has no mana left in the tank, and Blizzo hangs on by a thread, managing to stay in it just a tad bit longer, taking any opportunity that they can to try and stay in the tournament, to try and thwart their rivals, Method Black, but it's just slipping away through their fingertips. Blizzo holds on, but it's not enough. Method Black have done it. The comeback train, 3 in a row.
This is very important when you look at how this does shape up now for the entirety of the season, because ultimately here, with Wildcard falling, that means they will have 220 points. They grabbed 40 here, they had 184, and this leaves first place wide open for Method Black, and now they're going to be grabbing even more points than their competition, guaranteed. If they have a good performance here, it goes even further. I do want to commend, though, what Wildcard Gaming did. Not only do they get that early momentum, but also, these are the two forces. They're like superheroes, and if Method Black is a superhero, they're Batman. If you give them enough time, they're going to be able to figure out a plan. They're going to win pretty much every fight. So what does Wildcard Gaming do? They try to throw them off balance. They come in with this fast strategy. Did they pull the trigger too early into dampening for this strat?
I want to say yes, but more importantly, I want to say, if Method Black is Batman, does that make Wildcard Gaming the Joker?
I see what you did. I like how my first reaction was like, no, they're Aquaman.
Well, it does get pretty damp when they play.
It's Aquaman.
Yeah. I actually thought about that Joker.
Well, when you spend,
I was thinking about it too, but
when you spend that much
I didn't
time
pull
in the
the trigger.
deep end of the dampening pool, you start to
that's true.
learn to talk to fish.
Well, there we go.
Looney can talk to fish. He spends a lot of time in deep waters, okay?
All right. Well, now I'm upset I made that joke. How do you feel about this one?
Well, I was going to say, for Wildcard Gaming at this point, now that Method Black is so far ahead of you, you're actually cheering for Method Black. You want them to soak up as many points as possible, and that secures you in that top 4. If you can deny any other teams from really gaining a heavy amount of points from getting first place, then you're going to be in a solid spot.
It's